Hey, yo, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
How's everyone doing?
The weirdest
Good.
thing happened when I was at the grocery store. I think I got bitten by a small child dressed as a vampire. I don't know. I was on my way back, and and I was walking and like with my cart because I have a granny cart because I am living my best Mediterranean grandma life, and I'm walking back and like in the other direction comes a kid dressed up as a vampire, just the kid, no parent. And I don't know, as they were walking past me, I like fully blacked out for a sec, don't remember anything, but like when I came to, I was standing there and I heard the kid behind me say, "At least you're not gonna sparkle." So I don't know what's going on. And now my guns are like, what am I gonna do?
Definitely need more
go to
glitter
the
in your
dentist too. Yeah, maybe I'll just make myself sparkle myself. But I just hope that, if this affects me in any way, I can still eat all the lovely Greek foods.
It's for those wondering, we, alas, do not have a CB tonight, for she partied too hard and got a cold and lost her voice. So she is recuperating. But we have a Mimi.
Yeah!
Yeah!
I thought you were going to say that she shapeshifted to me, but...
Yo, that would have been better. I'm sorry, I'm too
That would have
focused
been very fun.
on these very tasty snacks.
Yes. I sent over some snacks. And
so they
the chocolate
arrived.
Cigars. Yes, today.
We got a care package from Auntie Tina and Grand Uncle Spiro.
Yeah, my daddy out, who doubled the size of my package, giving you guys snacks. But it's always worth it.
I'm not sorry to all of you who now have to see the weird ways I insert food into my mouth when I'm multitasking. I'm addicted
those ones,
to these. Like,
I do hold them like a cigar.
Yeah,
when I eat them.
They're not, like I told you, they're not the same brand, but they're definitely we had these every Christmas. These and the vanilla ones.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no. Nom.
Yeah, those ones are the Greek version. I think there is another Greek version, though, actually, because there is another brand, because those ones are a bit rarer to find than the other brand, but we don't like the other brand as much. They don't put as much chocolate inside.
How dare they?
So they're a bit drier. I know, right? But those ones are my favorite. I gave them once to a friend, and then like a couple months later, I was at his place and he still had the container, and I was like, "You're still eating those, or do you use the empty?" Because I also my pen container is one of those, the mini version. And he was like, "No, I'm saving them because I don't know when they'll be in stock next." And I was like, "Oh my god, you're rationing them." But honestly, it was smart of him to do it because when they leave
they're
stores
seasonal.
Sell out, it takes a while. No, it takes a while to get them over.
Oh.
They're in high demand.
They're like these and a couple other snacks when I was a kid. My grandmother would just buy in stock and keep at the house because they're seasonal and like once they're gone, they're gone. But my grandparents now spend the winter seasons at my uncle in Louisiana, so nobody stocks them anymore. Also, I don't live with my parents anymore. I need to get holiday snack stocking money. Everybody donate to my Ko-fi. Join my Discord so that I can have holiday treats.
Hold on.
Hey, Eva.
Let me. There we go.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, thank you, my child. Hi, how's everybody doing?
Hi.
So
hello.
spooky. Now, for anybody who thinks that Mimi is not in costume, I say flannel is very 90s vampire hunter. So that's what Mimi's representing tonight.
Yeah. Mimi is here to come save me from the small child.
I came dressed as someone who just got home from work 10 minutes ago.
Like literally a minute before the stream started, got a DM, you want to join us? Hey, yes, it is good to have Mimi.
Yeah.
Yep, see, there you go. She made it real easy. Mimi is the win. Just Laura gets This is why your parents need to send you a candy cane pack. Well, first of all, it would take longer for my parents to mail me a package than for me to just go to their house. But also, funny that you should say this, because for Christmas, it started 3 years ago, because it started on my 30th birthday, but it has now become a Christmas tradition that I get a bag of assorted chocolates. Just like, especially since we started getting a lot of international stores and stuff. So like my mom, there's like some like Belgium and some German and just whatever's in there. My mom started running out of new ones to give me though. And she's like, does it have to be all chocolates? And I'm like, no, you can give me any food, any snacks. And she's like, okay. So this year, my chocolate bag may branch out into the international snacks too. I'm very excited.
I actually have a snack I want to grab. 1 second.
I was about to say we should go ahead and do our intros. Tina left us to get
and Tina just poof.
Fox wants holiday treats.
Yes.
I have 2 different Greek varieties of Cheetos. So
What?
Yeah, but I don't know enough Greek to read what they are. I might have to do some Googling. And these ones called Foodonia, which are apparently to die for, according to my dad. They kind of look like corn pops, honestly, from the picture. I do like that their equivalent of Lay's is just called Tasty, though.
Tasty.
Yeah, it seems accurate.
If you don't mind sharing, I'm very curious as to what the tradition is, but I understand if you don't want to share. Alas, Kelly, 1, my mother is quite straight, and 2, I in fact love my father. The entire family says I picked him when I was 3, that I informed them he would be my dad, and then he and my mother ended up married, so I have immaculate taste.
Yes.
And they've been married, how old is my little sister? I'm 33, minus 5. They've been married 28-ish years? 28, 29? My mother was pregnant with my middle sister, so I guess they celebrated 27 this year, actually. 27.
Aww.
No.
Also, these ones are that I've been eating are called
Do you have homework tonight?
Draculenia because they're shaped like fangs. I had no idea that they were Halloween related as well. They're apparently pizza flavored. They don't. I can't remember.
I'm not stretching farther than this. If you want one, you have to stretch.
That is not. Let me see here. That is not Dracula's fangs. I thought
those look like brass knuckles. They look like brass knuckles.
They do taste like pizza.
Okay, Tina, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tina is Greek.
It's terrible.
So they just no, I'm kidding. She lives in Canada and they have a Greek store near her. Or
Kelly is in my area. I don't know. It might be a travel for you, but there's a bakery called Serrano. And there's also a bakery called Select, actually. If you just look up Greek bakery in your area, there's probably one. And it's probably in Greek town.
Do you have homework? No. Okay, good.
And that's where we get
your duo and your reading? Did you do your reading?
The children have readings.
Go do your computer time. Just do your reading after. Better.
I'm actually also supposed
I'll
to
eat all the cookies by myself.
Alloy says
Will
hello.
I do it tonight? We shall see. Oh, baby! My favorite Metis. So
Kelly says they will check that out. It is in fact a claw.
yeah.
I got pumpkin.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Ooh.
I like the flavor of pumpkin.
Ooh.
I don't like pumpkin spice flavored things because it tastes like it should be a pumpkin pie, but lacking a couple spices. So I just very weird relationship I have with that. But yeah, Tina, go ahead and introduce yourself before we get too off track.
Hello, I am Tina. I go by Campy online. I make queer art and comics. In spooky season fashion, I have Coffin Bed, a ongoing lesbian slice of life human vampire romance. Very fun time. I also have The Deep, which is complete, and it's about two deep sea mermaids discussing job satisfaction, and one of them happens to be dead. And then, of course, not really spooky related, but mystery related, I have a gay secret admirer romance comic called One Mystery Treat, and I am so upset that I was sick this weekend and couldn't post the update because there is a massive reveal coming and it is eating me apart. So I will be spending the stream working on as much of the page as I can, hopefully to get it up next, like this upcoming weekend.
It's not a work stream.
Wait, what? There's no sprints. Damn it! I mean, you know I do where I work when we're talking anyway.
Yeah, you could do that.
Because
I just wanted to remind you in case you forgot that part.
Okay, maybe after the stream I'll be working on it. Either way, I'm gunning to get this page out. I'm gunning to get this page out. But yes, you can
I have so much homework.
You can find all of my stuff. I will put the links below at cabby.com, and One Mystery Treat specifically I will link once I finish talking. Someone else go.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mimi. I'm a dark fantasy and horror writer. I have a couple of whips working on right now. One of them I call my false saint whip, in which a false saint without any powers is kidnapped by a former childhood friend who believes she is real. I have a new whip, my horror Spanish Inquisition, where one of them is dead and they don't know it. And I had a new idea today that I'm going to be delving into, a Dante's Inferno meets Orpheus and Eurydice. Horror that I really want to. I know. And I'm so excited to work on that. I know. But yeah, you can find me on all. You can find me on all sorts of social media. I'm Mirav Levy Writes everywhere. You can, like Tina has shown my link tree. So yeah, thank you for having me.
Laura just put a funny burn that I will highlight in a moment because I'm adding Mimi to the description. I tried to do it very quickly in StreamYard because StreamYard like lets you edit from in the studio now, but it does not let you edit live, which I just found out.
No.
But I must
wait. Also, what did I forget?
What did you forget?
Kelly said I forgot something.
Kelly said?
Oh, that is not
Tina
a work
did
stream.
forget.
Oh! Everyone is just going at me in the stream tonight. I got bitten by a vampire child, and now this one's going on. What did I do to deserve?
What happened?
I have a recommendation specifically for Laura, and she treats me this way. How dare!
And hi, I'm Marie Mirav. This is my channel where I talk about writer things, parent things, and writer-parent things. I also host live streams every Monday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. I have a spooky flash fiction called Until Pizza Do Us Part and a murderous villain short story on my website, SamanthaLNassett.com, which feel free to read. They're both, there for free. You can also join my Discord by going to the $1 Kofi Coffee Ko-Fi tier down below. And I have added Mimi to the description, so you can go check out all her stuff there. You can check out both of my awesome co-hosts in the thing below. They're also very active in my Discord, so if you want more Tina and more Mimi,
Yeah.
I don't know why you would want more me. I'm already a lot here.
Because your questions of the day that I am terribly behind. Great.
I'm honestly behind them. They're my questions because I feel like it's cheating if I don't have my answer.
Tina, one day it's just going to be me and you. All the questions. You know those willow tree angels, the ones with no face? Well, my mom really dislikes those angels. So one year for Christmas, my sister hid one of them in my mom's bathroom off the towel shelf. Now it's a toss-up as to which one of us gets that angel in a Christmas package or hidden.
I like that it's a gift.
No. It's also
you're giving me ideas.
It's very fitting for the spooky season because I would freak the fuck out. Like I'd have a moment of if like I just saw something randomly in my house. My daughter, now she like doesn't often spend her allowance, so her allowance kind of tends to like stack up. Whereas my older two kind of nickel and dime some of their games that have like in-app purchases, which is fine. They also will put like they have savings goals and they'll put money towards their savings goals and then also do that. So we went to Books A Million and she bought herself an Elf on the Shelf. And we get back to the car and Chris goes, "Why did you buy an Elf on the Shelf? We do not invite the Fae into our house." I was like, oh, that's fair. But it's too late now. I'm not going back in.
I had never seen one of those. And then I had I lived in a place where my roommates had one, and they had it just permanently in the chandelier above the dining room table, like all year round. And when I first noticed it, I jumped. Like, that's such a story. Thank you, Laura. Love you too.
Oh, RP, you weren't there.
Mm-hmm.
For those who did not hear the announcement over the weekend, the Save Sam's Butt Foundation has achieved our goal. We have ordered the chair. It should be in this week, so this should be my last stream in the kitty chair. So yes, but as always, I appreciate all of you and your eagerness to save my butt. My butt hated me this weekend, let me tell you. I was in 13 streams, and by the 13th stream, my butt was like, "Bitch, let's divorce." And I'm like, no, you cannot. I live in a nursing home. I have never gotten that angel score.
Heck yeah.
Nice. All right, so we're about 20 minutes in, and the purpose of this Let's Talk is to just, my butt will be paid, is to discuss just the spooky media that we enjoy, which, horror is such a giant umbrella, and not everybody is good with the, unnerving, scary horror. Not everybody likes, gore. That would be me. I hate horror. But generally, everybody has at least like one form of paranormal media that they tend to enjoy. So I asked I threw a blanket and it landed on my cord. So what type of horror media do you like? What type of spooky media do you like?
So I have a thing where I cannot do things moving at me in the classic jump scare way. And so it makes, the thing is that I do enjoy horror in certain contexts. I just
share your comments.
The whole, yes. So there are quite a few, I noticed, because pre-stream, I looked at sort of I made a list of the horror stuff I do like, and I noticed a trend where I do really like horror that centers around children. Even if it's not children's media, some of it is. And some of it is not necessarily like scary, spooky, but some of it is. And I actually am a big fan of the gore, and also just like body horror things in general, stuff like that is spooky. And what else? What else am I a fan of? I also tend to prefer stuff that's like, some like. I like crime thrillery stuff, but not true crime. And sometimes horror will sort of lean into that
like
as well.
Fictional crime.
Yeah, I like the crime when it's fake. No real crime, just fake crime. And
I buried my snake.
And yeah, that's what I got. I thoroughly enjoyed. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was actually going to compliment you, Mimi, because I thoroughly enjoyed being terribly the whole time I was reading your first chapter, because you definitely go into
yeah.
And I was like, and now I think about it every time I have a sit.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. I love the sad core grief horror, like ghost stories, anything that deals with funerals.
The Haunting of Hill House?
Yes, that's like the epitome of it. Bly Manor was so sad, and I'm like, I love this. Make me cry. Let's see, what else was there? I'll remember it when I'll remember it, but I just love ghost stories. I think scare me are the only things that will actually scare me. I got scared watching The Conjuring. I got scared watching Paranormal Activity. I got scared watching The Ring. The Ring was my favorite film in high school. I just love ghosts so much. But yeah. But if it's sad, even better.
I like an extremely wide variety of horror. I would say the only type of horror I don't like is gore, and that's the reason I don't like gore is because usually gore is more just about being getting a reaction from being disgusting and icky, and I'm I want more I'm into the horror for the interesting world building, the monsters, the lore, the mystery, the intrigue. Yes. I like all of those aspects. Gore tends to strip most of that away just to be gory. So
I have a question.
Yes.
What do you think of slashers then?
They're not my fave, but I can enjoy them.
Yeah.
So they're definitely on. See, I wouldn't count slashers as gore because slashers has gore in it, but there's more to it. There is all the lore and world building and stuff, but yeah, the people running around and screaming in terror tends to not be my thing. But a good middle ground there would be Saw, because Saw is extremely gory, but there's also a lot of psychological torture going on there.
Yeah, I do enjoy Saw.
On the non terrifying end of it, though, I also just like things that are kind of spooky themed, but they're not scary, which is part of why I called this stream spooky instead of horror, because stuff like Hocus Pocus. Hocus Pocus is not intended to scare the daylights out of you, but it is without a doubt spooky media. It is a horror movie. It's just more a family horror. And the new Goosebumps, so the old Goosebumps, I would say is balances a line between campy horror and playing it straight horror, right? Because a lot of the reactions are a little bit played up and stuff because it's targeted to kids and everything. The new Goosebumps, I think they aged up, but they didn't age it up super hardcore. They just aged it up so that it's more stuff that you could enjoy like as an adult and with your teenagers. Mm-hmm. And I've been watching it with I watch it one with Chris, and then I watch it with my oldest. And episode 4, the title is just something like "Eat Worms," so that should already give you an idea of what's going to go on in that episode. And my child got his first taste of body horror. And,
oh no!
His reactions. Oh, he was like, When I asked him how he felt after it, he was like, "No, it was fine." So like he also very much like enjoys horror media though. Like with his birthday money, he bought himself a horror game on Steam. It's like a mystery horror where Spooky Mansion or something like that. So and he was very excited. He's like, "I can get the DLC," and I'm like, "There's DLC, okay." That's all right. A lot of people, that happens, but there will be more relays. Christian loves horror everything: books, movies, TV shows. Yes. Mm-hmm. I especially love the drastically different experiences you can get from reading a horror book and then like seeing it on screen.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I grew up watching. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was going to say even the difference between like reading a horror book and then reading a horror comic too.
Oh, yeah.
Like with Junji Ito being like the master of the page turn. Just, chef's kiss. And then you can potentially jump scare or not jump scare yourself. Okay, I'm going to go very slowly. That's what I do. But yes, Bibi, you were saying.
I grew up watching Are You Afraid of the Dark? So I read Goosebumps and then I watched Are You Afraid of the Dark? And that as a child literally gave me nightmares. I actually rewatched some episodes recently. It's a fun, nostalgic time.
For the first time in my life, read Goosebumps books. Well, So I read the first one when I was a child. The dog died in the first one, so I swore off the series. It had been enough years that I forgot why I didn't read Goosebumps. And I'm like, I really love the TV show. Why wouldn't I read the books? So Nostalgia Train hosted a Steinoween readathon, and I read some of the books. And I watched some of the episodes on Netflix, which Netflix had the entire Goosebumps series, but they took it off, and now there's only like the specials. So there's only like the Haunted Mask, the Werewolf of Fever Swamp, Say Cheese and Die. I'm like trying to remember what the other ones are. So
I remember that one, Say Cheese and Die. That was one of my favorites.
That one is currently my oldest favorite. He actually just bought himself a copy from.
Yeah.
I love everything from Fallen with Denzel Washington and the Scream movies to Cujo and the It by Stephen King. I do not like the Saw movie. I think I remember the Saw movies very fondly because I was homesick and my dad was like, do you want to watch Saw? And I was like, yes. And we had meatball subs. So I will never not like them because I don't even remember most of what happened. I know the premise, but that's about it. Cujo, oh my god. I have so I saw the movie, and when I watched the movie, I hated it so much because I was like, he's just sick. He's just in pain. And I felt so bad for the dog. And then somebody told me, he was like, yeah, that's pretty much the book is from the dog's point of view. And that's pretty much it. And I'm like, or like something to that extent. Yes, child. Thank you. We'll bring her in here. My husband's a really big Stephen King's fan. I wish I could like Stephen King because like as an author I find him very interesting, and I actually relate to a lot of like his advice and some of his struggles. It's just, but I will give a disclaimer. The movie, I think I was too old when I saw it at first, so it was just very slow and long for me. I think it's a lot scarier when you're younger, considering it traumatized so many in a generation. And I do like Cujo. It's one of those things where it's like you like it, but you hate it because it's told so well. So, and I tried to read it, but the writing style is too raunchy for me. I just like, it's not my thing. But I have been told that others, that basically that's just the style of that story, which if his style changes with the stories he's written, I can get on that. And I really need to pick up another one. Yes. Me too.
I have a recommendation for.
So do I. Yeah. Go on.
And then Sam disappears.
No, I'm still. my middle is just bringing me the puppy. He doesn't want to be on camera, so I'm still here. Continue.
Okay. So.
Bring me.
I'm curious to see if our recommendations are the same. So I was big into Stephen King when I was a teen, and one of the stories that like really stuck with me. It was in a collection, I think called Everything's Eventual. But the short story that like really stuck with me, it's called Autopsy Room Number 4.
Yes.
And it is. Yes. It's so freaking good. And it's a thing that I found that like, even though like, I remember I read through quite a bit of Stephen King, loved Misery. There was one I tried to read several times, called Cell, which like the premise was so good, but it was around the time that Tina was starting to learn about feminism and was very aware of like certain things Stephen King does in his books and are not particular the inequality of not to say he's bad in any way. He seems like a great guy. But just not something I'm particularly interested in reading. But anyway, his short stories though, so freaking good. Like I feel like he's really good at just like packing a punch. And Autopsy Room Number 4, I spent the entire time being like like it really just the tension just stays the entire time.
Yes.
But yeah, so that's
me
my
the
recommendation.
because I have a small list of recommendations that from people who have read and like Stephen King and who know like my reading preferences. So I am definitely one day going to give him another chance. I just have not yet. And anything with Denzel Washington in it, phenomenal.
Yeah. My recommendation from Stephen King, he wrote a screenplay for a short TV series, a mini series called Rose Red. And it's his love letter to the original Haunting of Hill House. So it's a mini series that you can watch. And yeah, so if you like Shirley Jackson's book, Rose Red is very similar because he adores that book. And so he wanted to write his own like fan fiction of it. So that's what it is.
I love that he wrote an official fan fiction. My favorite horror director is Mike Flanagan. All his shows have been so amazing. For books, I'm a big Stephen King fan. My favorite horror movie is Get Out. I want to see that so bad. I just have horror movies had a good year this year, and I need to. I can't wait till like all of them come to streaming services so that I can rent them or something.
Well, Get Out is on Netflix now.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
we'll watch
Get Out
it
is on Netflix
this weekend
now.
probably because I want to watch it with Chris. But we don't really have time during the week to watch movies, so the weekends are when he and I watch movies. So I'm excited about that.
Ooh, that one's good. I managed to pull through with that one, and do not regret it because it was
see if she needs to go.
And actually, Jordan Peele also did the new Twilight Zone series, also really good. And there's the first episode is sort of like it has similar themes to Get Out in a way that is truly like it's spooky. Yeah. Like there's a couple of those Twilight Zone episodes that really just like get you. Which I think that's one of the things I really like about horror is that, like, because of just the nature of the genre, like, diving into these, like, really deep topics is possible, you know? And it's sort of, like,
Yeah,
expected.
like, because the origin of the horror genre was just to make us, like, feel like an uncanny valley of discomfort. And it was used a lot to challenge the faults in humanity. And most often the monsters were a symbol for the darker parts of humanity. Oh, she was thirsty?
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of.
Sorry, the puppy was whining, and me and my middle have been working together to try to figure out, because she's a baby. She can't communicate.
Yeah.
Oh.
But
speaking of,
name me some things by Mike Flanagan. I
had
a migraine going all weekend, but it finally like hit today. So
yes. So Mike Flanagan, he is my inspiration. I admire to write like him. I aspire to write like him. He did The Haunting of Hill House, The Haunting of Bly Manor, The Fall of the House of Usher, Gerald's Game, Before I Wake, Hush. He's doing another Stephen King adaptation on Amazon upcoming that I'm excited for.
Which one? Or
I forgot the name of it. Let me look that up really quick. But it's a short story by Stephen King. Stephen King. Next Stephen King. Because Gerald's Game was a Stephen King adaptation. Life of Chuck, which I haven't read yet.
I was about to say.
Yeah. So you'll be adapting that soon, and I love his writing style, and I aspire to write like him. Yeah, he's just great. You know what else is great? The Last of Us. I forgot to mention that.
Oh my god,
was phenomenal.
Camera's off, please. Thank you for helping.
The Last of Us was one of those stories that was like, wow, I'll like never write something this profound. It was just like a punch in the face for me.
The Last of Us is one of those horrors where it's not really about scaring you, and it's not even really about the monsters, to be fair. The monsters are just a backdrop, and it is about the darker nature of humanity. And I
so beautiful.
Eat that shit up. Kelly loves nature horror and a great ghost story, though campy horror comedy has a special place in my. Oh yeah, I love me some camp. It's so silly. Special place in my heart, and I am with you on the gore, Sam. Yeah, nature horror, campy horror. Spooky is awesome. I don't know about other people, but I love that there are creepypasta YouTube channels that have horror spooky. Yeah, my kids I'll hear them listening to some YouTube videos or something, reading creepypasta stuff, and I'm like taken back to my teen years. We were doing something, and it was, I can't remember if it was Jack Skellington or I really wish my memory didn't fuck up like this sometimes, but whatever we were doing or whatever we were watching, and I was explaining how it worked to the kids, and my oldest goes, oh, like Slender Man, and I'm like, oh, Slender Man is actually probably based on this. So whatever it was Slender Man. But I was also just like, how you know Slender Man? That was before your birth. I'm pretty sure. Okay. When did Slender Man come out? June 2009. Okay. No, Slender Man is slightly older than my child. But like, it's fascinating and slightly horrifying what kind of things my children get into that are also from my childhood, just because the internet exists. Oh, technically, I was an adult when Slender Man came. That's not the point, though. The sentiment remains. Also, Fox wishes that we should talk about gargoyles because she says horror is the devil. And I say, sure, that is the point. I might have been thinking about Jack Skellington. My oldest is a huge Nightmare Before Christmas fan.
I do.
Oh, go ahead.
My favorite of Nightmare Before Christmas, like of the characters, is actually, funny enough, the 3 vampires, because I'm just obsessed with both their design, like shape-wise, and their voices.
Yeah.
I love them so much.
The trophy for the most blood drained this year.
My mom did not take us to see Nightmare Before Christmas when it was out on theater. She was afraid it was going to scare us.
I watched it really young, actually. I was like 4, to the point where it's actually one of the first movies I ever remember seeing. And it was like at Christmas at like a friend's house while we were making Christmas ornaments. And yeah, I remember just like being fascinated because I had never seen something that was intended to be creepy, you know? It was also my first time ever seeing a Batman like thing. It was an animated movie about the Mr. Freeze and Mr. Freeze's wife. And I remember being so sad about Mr. Freeze's wife dying in it. And I was like, I had just like, it was quite the night for baby Tina. A combination of like being scared for the first time and also watching what was basically my first tragedy. And actually, in the new Harley Quinn, the second Mr. Freeze's wife showed up, I was like, God damn it! I'm gonna be living through childhood trauma. And I had to explain to my friend who's like a huge Batman fan that was like my first knowledge.
I greatly enjoyed the very campy Batman movies, which had Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze, I think.
I think so.
Batman, what killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age. I'm typing up a banner for our next question, so go on.
Okay.
In the audience.
I mean, sort of in the same vein as Nightmare Before Christmas, another recommendation if you haven't seen it. I believe, I don't remember if they're the studio who did Coraline. At least some of the people who did Coraline are part of the studio now. But Studio Leica did a movie called Paranorman. Oh, so freaking good. So like funny and like referential and just like and so heartwarming and also heartbreaking.
Paranorman
I love
and
it so
Coraline,
much.
the kids are obsessed with. When we had to read Coraline for the Nostalgia Train book club, I was listening to the audiobook and the kids were like, there's an audiobook, there's a book, and I'm like, yeah, it's based on a book by Neil Gaiman. And I was like, who is the same guy who wrote the Graveyard Book, which y'all enjoyed? And my children were like, we need this now. And so my youngest bought herself Coraline, and the other 2 listened to it from the library. Is it heresy that it says hearsay, but I'm pretty sure it's heresy that I am not a fan of Nightmare Before Christmas? And no, I have the Nightmare Before Christmas, and I have a very mixed relationship. So I don't dislike it, but I am not a fan, if that makes sense. But I know like most of the songs because I could not escape it as a teenager, especially having as many grungy and goth and alternative friends as I did. So my next question is, what's your favorite horror monster or horror theme? You can answer both if you have a favorite horror monster and a favorite horror theme. The only reason I did the question like this is because, like I said, some people aren't into monster horror, in which case you're probably more into theme, and vice versa.
So,
yeah.
this is my recommendation for Laura if she hasn't read it yet. But there's this manga that came out, and I had it on my radar, and I finally read it last night. And it's, oh my god, okay. So it's called The Summer That Hikaru Died, right? And we open on these two, they're like younger high school aged kids, right? And we know from the cover that one of them is Hikaru. So we're like, okay, it's a flashback, right? We're gonna see how he died, right? And it's a thing of like, they're, you know, it's a hot summer day. They go and they get ice cream. There's only one ice cream bar left, you know, sort of thing. And the other kid, I believe his name is Yoshiko. He, you know, sits there and he has a moment where he gets really nervous all of a sudden as like in the midst of their conversation. Because Hikaru says something like he's playing around with like the pronunciation of words, and he plays around with the word torture. And the other boy, I'm going to call him Yoshi for now, just for simplicity's sake. Yoshi gets really nervous for a second, and then he goes, you know, I know you're not actually Hikaru. And Hikaru turns, and his face starts to like melt and become this like just textured eldritch horror sort of thing. And the first thing he does is hug Yoshi and say, thank you for accepting me for the past year. Please don't make me kill you. And that's like the first couple pages. And it and it just goes on from there. That's only the first couple pages, because I was like, I was thinking about how to explain it to you guys, but that's only the first couple pages. And then it both is like this like because we kind of have two sides of the story from there, like Yoshi's and Hikaru's. And Hikaru's side, so I have to use quotation marks, because they even do where like they explained in the translation that Yoshi starts using a different pronunciation / word to describe Hikaru. Like it's still spelled the same way, but like, you know, the characters are now different. So Hikaru is having his own like he is having a coming of age slice of life sort of story as this like mysterious unknown being. Like we get bits and pieces of what he is, but there's a lot of mystery, and also like there's horrors going on involving him sometimes not even involving him. And then Yoshi is having an existential crisis because he is questioning the meaning of life. Because the thing is that, like, this is also not a spoiler, like, they reveal pretty early on that, they reveal pretty early on that Hikaru is, in fact, dead. Like, the original Hikaru, right? And so, this poor kid is not only dealing with the fact that his friend has been taken over by a monster, but also the grief of losing his best friend. And so, he's having all sorts of feelings, and there's just a bunch of other stuff going, and it is just incredibly well done, and it's not finished yet, and they left off at a really good part, and I'm like, oh. And the thing is too, is that not only are they both having questions about the meaning of life, what it means to be human, but they're also starting to learn about romance and love with each other. It's also freaking gay. Which is how I had heard about it. And I was sitting there like, how?
I love me a romance between a human and a monster thing that doesn't know how to emote.
The thing is that currently, I'm not sure it's going to be a romance. Because it is very complicated and very messy.
I shall reword. I love me a love story between an eldritch between a horror monster that doesn't know how to human and a human.
See, I do also love both a romance and a love story between them. I just wanted to clarify that, like, as it currently stands, I don't know, which is part of the excitement.
Clarity appreciated.
But yeah, no, it is incredible. I am shocked at how good it is. Which I honestly shot a bit because, like, I kept just hearing praise for it. But I was hearing praise for it from, like, romance people. So I was like, as I was reading those first couple pages, I was like, I don't know what we're doing here. But yeah, I just like I'm still. It's one of those things where like I finished it last night and I'm still reeling from it, you know, which I feel like is one of the best experiences. But like, I really hope that we get more soon.
I just found it and I favorited it so I can read it. I'm excited. It sounds so good.
Yeah, it is. But yeah. I had to tell you guys about it because, but yeah, I guess my favorite monster now is Hikaru because I'm just absolutely fascinated. But yeah.
Well, my favorite monster right now is my cat. That's why my computer keeps going.
Your cat, a metaphor for the struggles of life as she's trying to just do things. I relate.
So every time you saw my camera go back, it's him pulling on the laptop.
The street.
Amazing.
Hey, baby.
Well, I think I mentioned before that ghosts are my thing. There's just like there was a line in Mike Flanagan's Haunting of Hill House where on the first episode, and I knew from there on, I was like, this is going to be good. One of the characters was like, most times a ghost is a wish. And I was like, it just killed me inside. Just that one line killed me. So I just love ghosts so much. Just the heartache and like the wish of seeing somebody alive again, and just, I don't know. It's just so good. It's good stuff. How do I stop that?
A little menace. Love him.
Is.
He's also my favorite monster. Him and Hikaru are tied. Oh man.
Stop it.
Now I'm trying to think of my favorite ghosts. I like.
Put the comment up so y'all could talk to chat while I was busy.
Yeah, witches and vampires are awesome.
Yeah,
it was the vampire episodes. Yeah, it was the vampire episodes of Are You Afraid of the Dark that gave me the worst nightmares. Actually.
I just love vampires.
Yeah.
I love me some witches in all formats. I like when witches are like evil monsters. Either for the antagonist, like in Hocus Pocus.
Yeah.
But I also like when witches are like the main characters and they're basically they have magic. I think it's really interesting how some people choose to write witches as just like humans with magic, and then others are like, no, they're like they're like a different species. I'm like,
I would like Jim Henson.
Remind me what that is.
The puppet
Muppets.
guy?
Oh,
the Muppets.
Yeah, that's right.
Actually, a movie that
no,
did unnerve me.
Oh.
The witches were just.
Oh, okay.
And they turned that boy into a bat.
Oh, I hated that one as a child.
Wait, which one?
I think it's called The Witches, the one where the boy gets turned into a rat.
Oh, that's a book, right? That's a novel,
yeah,
right?
But I think they also made it a movie? Yes, a movie.
Chris was referencing the Muppets episode where they turned everyone into rats. But...
No, it was a movie.
Oh, it was a movie?
By the Jim Henson Company called Witches.
And
it was remade back in like
Then it is what you were thinking of,
in
Tina.
2020 and Princess Diary girl, I can't remember her name.
Oh, I don't know.
Anne Hathaway.
Anne Hathaway.
And but the original one, the witches were really ugly, and the little boy or whatever, I don't remember, but he was turned into a rat.
I think I saw the trailer for that, for the remake.
Yeah. They got Under Fire because you can't even find it on HBO. It was made by HBO. Where like because the witches had like these hands and they were like they're making fun of pterodactyl diapus.
Okay.
I can't remember. Yeah, your fingers.
I know what you're talking about though.
A witch movie that actually freaked me out when I was young was Practical Magic. Have you seen that?
Let me Google to see if I can.
It stars, what's her name? Sandra Bullock,
Sandra Bullock
and Nicole Kidman. Yeah, and Nicole Kidman. That actually freaked me out when I was young. I watched it now and it's like more romantic than I remember, but when I was young, I was like, oh my God.
The screenshots look familiar, but I do not know. Like, I feel like I've seen it, but like Saw, I don't remember it. I just know that I have seen it. I enjoy vampires, and I'm very lenient for the most part on like how vampires are portrayed in media, just because I know that vampiric lore is so like like it bounces all across the globe on how people define vampires and the myths that go into them. So I like a lot of different kind of vampires. Practical Magic is one of Kelly's all-time faves.
It's a good one.
For me,
I think
no, go ahead.
I think a good vampire book was Salem's Lot. I don't know if you read it, Tina, by Stephen King.
I haven't. No.
That's one of the ones that has been recommended to me.
I think I was the one who recommended it.
I think so, but I couldn't remember for sure, so I didn't want to be wrong.
It's a good one. Yeah. It's a good one. It scared me, actually.
So my favorite monster type in horror media also kind of coincides with my favorite horror theme in media, and that's werewolves and the the theme of man against himself and like fighting that inner darkness or the inner monster within you. That's some deep things that I really enjoy, which is also one of the reasons that I like the Underworld series, which is vampires versus monsters. I actually just watched a video on it today where somebody was talking about why Underworld worked, and I was like, you're allowed to have opinions. So I watched it, and it reminded me of I think I saw those in theater with my dad, all except Blood Wars. So it's such a great series. And the way that they do their like vampires and werewolves, I will say I am not generally the biggest a fan of vampires having children biologically, because I'm like, they're undead? Question mark. And it's like, no matter how you cut the cloth of the mythos on what makes a vampire, it still doesn't logic for me that like female vampires can get pregnant, because it's like, oh well, if you're frozen in time, that means that your eggs aren't going anywhere, buddy, they're just there. Or like, if you're an undead creature, again, that all of that shuts down when we die. Male vampires I can be a little bit more lenient with, because there's like studies that still functions for a certain amount of time after death. So if you're going with the like mythos that their bodies freeze in time, very believable they could be impregnating human women and making dampiers. There's also like, oh shit, what country is it? There's a country that has the myth of the dampier, and the myth of the dampier is like when women got pregnant but like their husbands were dead, it was said that their husband came back to life as a vampire to impregnate them and then went back to his grave. And I'm like, that's considered? So I'm like,
Is
there's
that
mythos there. Is that
is
what?
that a German word? Dampier.
Mhm.
It's not a German word.
It's in that area though. Hold on. I forgot the M. Nope. I will spell it
Personally,
right.
I'd be a vampire if it meant I didn't have
It's
periods.
Balkan.
Ah.
Yeah, so it's in the Albanian area, peninsula thing, or Balkan. Either Albania is in the Balkan area, or no, yeah, that's how it goes. So
I think
it's from the Balkan area of folklore. Sorry, my brain had it dumb because this says in Balkan folklore and then parentheses the Albanian pronunciation. But yeah, so like there's that. But like I said, I can be flexible with my vampire things, and so like in Underworld they can have children. So it's fine. I love the like forbidden love story between the vampire and the werewolf.
Yes.
But then like
Yes.
which also Rise of the Lycans is my favorite. Oh, but like they can be born or they can be cursed, and your like vampirism and werewolfism is a little different based on which one you got. And I'm like, you can tell like what franchise extremely heavily influenced the way, because I like see that and I'm like, yes, that's what I want to do. And then like had the little seed of inspiration for me. And Rise of the Lycans, which is basically a tragic love story that coincides with a rebellious uprising of werewolf slaves freeing themselves from their vampiric overlords. I'm like, it's just so good.
It's so good. Underworld is so good. Have you seen Van Helsing?
Mm-hmm.
I thought that
That's
was
some
so
campy
anime.
goodness right there. That is some campy goodness right there.
The movie. It was directed by the same guy who did The Mummy.
That makes sense.
I recently was at a gay bar and they were playing The Mummy on one of the TVs.
As we should.
I was like, wait a second. That's not just some like sexy Egyptian thing going on. That's Brendan Fraser.
Sexy Egyptian I recognize.
Yeah, there was some like sexy Egyptian ladies doing some sword fighting, and then all of a sudden Brendan Fraser. And I was confused at first because this is a gay guy bar rather than a lesbian bar. So I was like, why do we have ladies on the screen? I mean, I also was distracted because there was ladies on the screen. And then it was like, wait a second. But yeah, I have yet to see it. I actually saw a little bit of the remake recently
For the
because my dad was watching it.
No.
But my dad only watched like the first, I want to say like 20 minutes of it before he gave up. But yeah, it was like right around the part where they actually got to the like discovering the mummy. The backstory stuff we did watch, and it was pretty, at least. Like I was sitting there like, oh damn, her makeup's real cool. Like, but yeah,
love the Mummy. A fun fact about the Mummy with Brendan Fraser and everything. I think whatever studio was doing it, they were essentially remaking like the original Universal monster movies. But when they got to the Mummy, there was like a lot of back and forth and stuff. And whoever eventually ended up doing it, they were like, no, I don't want to make a horror movie. I want to make the Mummy, but as an action flick. And that's why the Mummy came the way that it did. And I'm like, perfection.
It's beautiful.
Perfection.
It's perfection.
They made the right choice. But there's there's references to the original Mummy movies, like that somebody is named after the architect, and I just don't remember. Not architect.
The yes. Hang on. His name is on the tip of my tongue. Blah, 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 blah. God.
I believe
Great
I
name.
know I know in my
Ardeth?
on my YouTube channel. Yes, I think so.
Ardeth Bay, yeah. Mm-hmm.
In my backlog, in my videos on the mummy, not the mummy. In my lives, in my backlog, I have both a Let's Talk Vampires where me, Jess, went into a lot of detail on vampires, including the chicken vampire, which is my favorite thing in the world. I can't remember the name of it at the moment, but I love the chicken vampire. And I think we've done a Let's Talk the Mummy. If we haven't, I will. But I'm pretty sure we did it. The Discovery of Witches books addresses the vampires having kids thing nicely. Do you want to share? I've never read those books, but I would be interested in hearing how they address it.
You know,
I love the Underworld series. They were the first darker / gore. Yes, the done in the blue. What's the word? In the blue
stylish.
filter of the 2000s, and all that goth grungeness. It's so good. I ever watched this series. Van Helsing is definitely right up there too. Van Helsing's. I will defend it to my dying day. I think it's a good movie.
It is.
Is Imhotep the mummy in the original Mummy?
I don't know about the original. He is the mummy in Stephen
I know
Somers's.
he's the mummy in the middle one, because I can't say the new one. Need a new one.
He's based on a real person. Imhotep is a real chancellor.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah. Yep, he was in the...
Your husband is a man of great taste. Thank you, RP, for remembering my inventory. Oh, I'm glad you really enjoyed it. I highly recommend watching it. We talked about, because it is a Let's Talk of mine, I am confident that we talked about the making of and some behind the scenes stuff. Oh, the fact that they had a day where they were filming and Brandon Fraser wasn't scheduled to be on set, and the guy who was playing Imhotep was on set, and Brandon came around the corner or something it was the scene with Imhotep and the priestess, Anaxunomun, and instead of the priestess walking out, it was Brandon Fraser in full body paint and pasties. Oh my god. If a vampire and a witch have a specific bloodline, they can have kids together, but otherwise vampires can't have kids. So that could work, because magic is involved. If you go, hey, magic, I'm yeah. That's in Van Helsing and his wives keep having stillborns. But then he uses magic to reanimate them, and I'm or science magic to reanimate them, and I'm this makes sense.
It's a great idea. Yeah.
Great idea. So
it's such a clever movie.
Mm-hmm. This is also in part why all these examples are reasons why I'm I aspire to never say that I would never enjoy a specific thing or a specific idea, or that they're not real vampires because of XYZ, because it's they're mythical monsters. As long as you stay true to the core, as long as these vampires are sucking the blood or life out of somebody, I don't care. Because that's really all it takes to be a vampire.
Or the color red.
Even actually have, or the color red. I can get behind that.
Don't forget about Marceline.
But
took her crying. She suffered long.
There's also some things they're vampires aren't even actually undead things, and I'm well, when they're not undead, they have kids. That makes a lot of sense. It's just when things are they are undead. I'm all right, now you gotta explain it to me. Even if your explanation is just magic, you gotta explain it.
You know, a monster I don't see
people's names tonight. Whose name did I mess up?
A monster that I enjoy that I don't see often, it's like rare for me to see it, is a banshee.
Yes, I love
Yeah.
banshees.
Yes.
In Tina, that werewolf series that we discussed with adolescent Teen Wolf.
I was about to say, I immediately thought of Lydia from Teen Wolf.
Lydia
was
in
waiting for you
Teen
to say it.
Wolf was such a phenomenally well done banshee in the early seasons. Later seasons get a bit questionable. Still
I mean, later
loved
seasons
her.
get a bit questionable in
Still
general.
like, you're not wrong. Teen Wolf is such a good series. Every time you say Brandon, oh, it's Brendan Fraser. My bad. I'm sorry, Brendan. But yeah, Teen Wolf is such a good series for like their lore and their monsters 80% of the time. And then the other 20%, I'm like, explain how this works. Or there's like this one that I won't give Teen Wolf any, like even an inch of forgiveness for, because they basically took a pre-existing word for a thing and they used it, but the thing that they used it for is absolutely nothing. Like, it is a completely different, they have no similarities. And but when you try to look up information on the original thing, all you get is Teen Wolf lore stuff. And I'm like, Teen Wolf, you done that culture dirty. Stop it. I say years and years after production is finished.
I mean, didn't they have that movie recently?
Maybe, but
Friendly Space Ninja did a review on it. That's why I remember. I was just thinking.
Question. Oh, go ahead.
Wait, before our next question, I was just thinking that my favorite vampire of all time, especially now that I have Boo and Luna, is Bunnicula. Because Boo is basically just a friendlier version of Bunnicula. I reread the books recently, and the thing is that like the bunny doesn't really do anything. But the other animals are like in the house, like the other pets are terrified of him. And I'm like, yeah, Boo has scared several cats at this point by being too friendly. Because the thing is that like if you go into my room, he will hop up to you and like immediately wants your attention. He loves living beings. He loves everyone, right? And there has been a couple times where he'll meet a cat and he's like, hello, friend. And the cat is like, fuck no. And I'm like, yeah, Boo. I have also done where, because if you give a white rabbit raspberries, they will start to dribble and it looks like blood. Except when I did it the one time with Luna, I didn't give her enough, I guess, or she's just too neat of an eater, but it made it look like she had lipstick around. It was really cute. Aww. But yeah, that's the end of my vampire contributions.
That's fine. Before I go to the next question, I actually I should also bring up that I really love revenants. I would be like it would be horrible if I didn't bring them up since I dressed up as a revenant.
I'm still not clear on what that is.
I had to Google to make sure that it wasn't strictly a D&D thing. So I remembered it not being. So a revenant is basically somebody who has been dead, presumably been dead for a while, and they come back to life. Most remnants come back to life to serve a specific purpose, and then they die again.
So it's like a mummy with a job, basically. And less
kind of,
preparation beforehand.
Yes, kind of, except like they basically come back to life in the state that they died-ish. And Eric
like a mummy.
Draven, Eric Draven. No, mummies just come back to life in the state they're currently in.
That's true.
The embalming just keeps them. I don't want to say pristine. Preserved. That's the word. Keeps them preserved.
I was going to say packaged.
But My brain. Oh yeah, Eric Draven from The Crow was my first experience with a revenant. And my dad is the only reason I knew what the word was, because we were like talking to him, like, so is he a zombie? And he was like, no, he's more like a revenant. And I'm like, what is that, father? But yeah, so Eric, like, I highly recommend the Crow movie. There's also a comic that the Crow was based on, and it is very dark themed. Eric Draven, like, at the beginning of the movie, he comes back and he doesn't know what was going on or anything. He didn't even know that he died, and it's been like a couple months, and he finds out that like this gang had targeted him and his girlfriend for reasons, and so now he's basically back to make them all pay. And yeah, it's a great movie though. It is so super fucking 90s grunge though. So that.
Oh, speaking of, I can actually show you guys this one. Hold on. Welcome to my bookcase. There's this horror comic called Black Hole. Beep, 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 beep. And it's in the body horror realm, also in the sort of, I guess you could classify it as grunge, but it's about a small town in the 70s, I believe, who is targeted by what is basically an STI that mutates them in the population in various disturbing ways. And one of the cool things I learned recently is that the author was inspired by a dream he had where he had caught a disease that was like making a devil's face like around his body, like traveling, and he like woke up and was like, what the fuck was that? Let me write a short story about it. And then it kind of like the idea kind of grew into this comic. It's really fun, really good spooky read. It's definitely in that category of like, it's not so much like I guess for me, like, it didn't really scare me personally, you know, sort of thing, because it is kind of like you're kind of removed because of like the era and like well, I mean, I'm in the city, so like not small town, and but it's got very good vibes, you know. One of those ones to curl up with.
Kelly said people should check out Count Dracula, the vegetarian vampire. And that a revenant is more of a ghoul. Yeah, I would say it's closer to ghoul than
I don't know what the difference is between a ghoul and a ghost. I'm not the most well versed in these things.
A ghoul has physical form.
Huh.
Yeah, a ghost is, what's the word I'm looking for? Intangible, and a ghoul is tangible. It's like you can punch a ghoul, but you can't punch a ghost.
I had to go put my book back.
I
felt like a booktuber for a sec there with having actually something to hold. Actually, I can do that again because my horror is all over there.
So that actually goes into our next question pretty well. Do you prefer horror on screen or on page?
I mean, I feel like I've mentioned my answer, so I don't know if you want to go first, Mimi.
I think I prefer my horror on screen. I do love horror books, but they don't, like, with the exception of Salem's Lot, they don't scare me. You know, I think they're just, you know, action just slows down on the page, whereas like on screen, you see the suddenness, you feel it, you hear the music, you know, it's on a book form, it just comes across a lot slower. But Salem's Lot did scare me, like legitimately, magically.
So for me, it depends on.
I do prefer the page. Oh, sorry.
No, you go ahead. I have to play with the
for me, I lean. Everyone's got their medicines around except for me. So yeah, I do typically prefer the page. As I mentioned before, can't do the meh. So it's kind of a given. But I think it is a thing of like, in terms of like visual versus written, it depends on the kind of horror for me. I feel like when it's horror that is more in that sort of like, you know, sort of what I was mentioning before, that sort of like thriller horror where it's more like real life based, then like the written stuff does really affect me, right? In like a good way. And then when it comes to the more like supernatural stuff, I do kind of want to see it rather than read it, because I think like my brain is thankfully nice to me and will not give me spooky images when I'm reading spooky things.
From that advantage.
And then comics are just the best of both worlds. You get the page and you get the visuals. There's this other one. I've mentioned it several times on stream now, and Laura has also mentioned it. I believe the English name is called Blood on the Tracks. I believe so. And it's described as a like in the promotional like covers and stuff, it's described as a quiet horror, and it's basically the story of like we're in the perspective of a son whose mother does all sorts of horrifying things. But the thing is that like it's so tense because you are just so scared for him, sort of thing. And like it's also maybe we will talk about it later, because yes. I don't want to spoil things, but I think there's parts of it that you will personally really like, from what you've said on stream. And the thing is that like it has these panels that are like gorgeous but so unsettling. There's one that I had to like screenshot because it's literally just like, it's a moment where the kid has to do something terrible because the mother's eyes are on him, right? And he knows that he can't mess this up, right? He's seen what she can do, right? And the panel is just like, he's partially in shadow because of a window, and it like cuts off here, right? And it's just entirely black from here up, and then, you know, normal here, and you just see his eyes, and it's just such a striking image, you know? And it's one of those things that like, if you had read it as like prose, it just would not hit the same, you know? It's one of those things of like the artist like really leaning into the medium, which I think is the thing of like, you know, with prose or with the visuals, like, you know, I think a lot of the like success of a horror story is how much they use what their medium allows. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
For me, it depends on like what I want to feel at the time, because things on screen don't really affect me, and they never really have. I don't know. There's just like this what's the word for it? I'm too disassociated from it, right? Like I'm too aware of the disassociation. I can't like turn my brain off and submerge myself in it. Whereas like if I'm reading it on the page, I have to focus so much on the page because I'm like not doing anything else. Then I get like more pulled into it. So it depends on like how pulled in that I want to be. But like I do most horror media I consume is through like comics or on the screen media. Well, now, not when I was younger, but yeah. So I love both, and I like the comics. There's some horror comics on Manta that I have thoroughly enjoyed recently. I also tend to consume horror at like 4 in the morning.
That one you recommended to me, Sam. That was so funny. That was so funny. The fact that I was like screaming to you over a message about how terrible the therapist character was.
Yeah!
No confidentiality at all. The main character goes to him as a journalist about someone, and the therapist is like, here's everything you need to know about him. Everything we've talked about in session. It was just so funny. It was just the perfect amount of camp for me, I think.
The therapist, when he died, like, it was not surprising.
Oh no, no.
It was only surprising because it was like, oh, the writer went there. It was not surprising that it happened. Kelly says, I prefer visual or YouTube channels rather than books.
There's some great horror.
Jen prefers their horror on the page. That way I can skip things if I need. That's another thing that, I mean, because I skip, it's not horror related, but I skip large battle scenes if I don't feel like reading them. So
yeah.
I am not one who skips. I hadn't even considered this.
One of the things that I don't like about old man fantasy writing is because, like, theoretically I could skip the long, drawn out things about the history of the porticles in this part of the city. But, like, also they might have like just a small detail in there that's going to matter later, and I don't know which details I shouldn't skip. So, at least if something mattered in a fight, then I could like, they'll bring it back up later. It's fine. That being said, I have loved what T. Kingfisher has done with her books. What has she done? What has T. Kingfisher?
That sounds so familiar.
What Moves the Dead, Nettle and Bone, The Twisted Ones, A Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking.
I've heard of Nettle and Bone.
I need that one. The Horror Places, here. Sword Heart. Well, I'm loving her titles, so I'm gonna definitely check her out. Yeah, I get more affected by things on screen than I do things on page. So Jen is my opposite.
I'm also your opposite in that way. Hence why I can't do that. Yeah. I don't know if you guys really have an opinion on this. I tend to prefer shorter horror stories, honestly, because I feel like I like having where, like, there's sort of that, like, tension, release, fall in one sitting when it comes to horror, because I feel like with stuff that's longer, I risk, like, the tension of it all sort of fading as it takes longer to read, because I'll just forget stuff. But at the same time, I feel like the stuff that does resonate with me, like, just gets stuck in my brain. The images of, like, panels that I can remember from things of, like, sticking so clearly usually is horror stuff, actually. Like that one that comes up in the beginning of The Summer Hikaru Died, where his face just starts to it's just and that'll stay with me,
I like my horror in a short story or a flash fiction. I really enjoy horror that way. But if it's a mystery horror, I can go with, like, however long it needs to be for this mystery to unwind.
Mm-hmm.
But you are right, for just my regular horror stuff, I do tend to prefer the shorter stuff. Because, like, yeah, like, it's hard for me to get scared or feel unease in horror in the first place. So the longer we go, the less it's going to affect me. Mm-hmm. But I think horror is a good genre for both forms. Kelly said Nettle and Bone is a grim, dark fantasy that does have horror tropes in it. Yeah, I need to look into more, like, dark fantasies and grim dark fantasies, because it's essentially horror and fantasy had a baby.
I think, like, for me, it, like, the horror depends on how, like, its depth. If that makes sense. If there's like a lot of character development to be had, I would prefer it more long form.
Yeah.
So that would go into like, depending on the purpose of it. I get you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my grumpy cat. Oh, hello, Grumpy. She is the only cat to still reject and complain that the puppy is here.
Aww.
That at least you don't hiss at the puppy anymore. You just growl grumpily.
Oh.
Cutest face. So did anybody have anything else that they wanted to talk about with spooky media and what we enjoy and stuff? Want to gush about your favorite series?
There was one that I'm gonna have to do some quick searching on YouTube for, since Kelly reminded me about the YouTube ones.
Oh yeah, Kelly, Tina, since y'all listen to the horror things on the YouTube, feel free to share YouTube recommendations for all those things.
One channel that I can recommend for just like general, like if you are spooked by horror, or like you don't really want to like you don't like it but you're curious about it, like you do the thing that I do sometimes where I hear about a horror movie and I'm like, I definitely won't be able to watch this, but I'm so curious as to how the plot is. There's a YouTube channel, let me remember what it's called. Yes. It's called Super Eye Patch Wolf. I think he's pretty popular. He's got like 1 million subscribers. But he does a really great job at like explaining this, like the plot of things, but in this very like dramatic way where like you are just like sucked into the story and you're like, I'm here, let's go. And it's nice because like with certain ones he will spoil but like give warning, but sometimes he doesn't, and that's actually how I found out about Blood on the Tracks, which is now one of my favorite horror comics of all times, because he did a really good video explaining the first part of it and how like effective it is. But yeah, he's done stuff about like quite disturbing horror media, but then there was also one he did, and also it's just handy to have, but to like be like, what is the back rooms? Now Tina knows.
She doesn't do strictly horror, but another very entertaining person who talks about a lot of horror movies, especially bad horror movies, is Kenny JD. And I absolutely love the way that she talks about movies and shares the plot. Like, she tells spoilers most of the time, so be ready for that. But yeah, I highly recommend her videos if you like listening to somebody talk about movies. Her series where she does that is they're called Bad Movies in a Beat, where she talks about the bad movies, puts her makeup on, and when she talks about good movies, it's good movies in a glam. So
yeah.
I especially love when she's like, I was gonna watch this movie for Bad Movies in a Beat, but it was actually good. So I guess we're doing good movies in a glam today.
There's one of the ones that Super Eye Patch Wolf covers is a series of videos called Lasagna Cat, which is a horror series here on YouTube about Garfield. And so, and it's a fun watch in terms of it being spooky. It's one of those ones, mostly vibes, but still very fun. Yeah.
Kelly recommends Welcome to Night Vale if you want something set in the world. Plus the Dark Somnum, Lighthouse, and Mr. Creeps for narrated stories.
I know there's also one, if you're a fan of Welcome to Night Vale, I cannot remember what it's called because I don't actually listen to it. I think it's called the Magnus Archives, if I remember correctly. It's in like a similar vein. I've heard it's really good. I love Welcome to Night Vale, but I can't listen to it because the times I listen to stuff like that, there's like, I'm on the subway, there's noise, I can't parse all the story sort of thing. Or I fall asleep. And I've had that happen to me several times with Welcome to Night Vale. I've tried to listen to it like 5 times and I can't get past like the second episode.
The Magnus Archives is a weekly horror fiction anthology podcast, so that could be.
I've heard people basically recommend it if you like Welcome to Night Vale, so I'm passing that recommendation along to you folks. I've heard.
I also in the non-scary things, I recommend the Hocus Pocus movie and the new Hocus Pocus movie and the original Gooserbumps. Are You Afraid of the Dark? What else?
In terms of not scary.
Let me look up.
In terms of completely not scary,
Beetlejuice.
This
Halloween Town. How can I forget that one existed?
Oh yeah, I just watched it the other night. The nostalgia.
Oh, also the Addams Family, classic.
Yeah.
In terms
If
of
the Haunted Mansion
spooky,
is the movie I'm thinking of, it is a silly good time. If it is not the one I am thinking of, I apologize to anybody who goes there. But I'm pretty sure it's a silly good time. Yeah, just looking at the movie poster.
So when I talk about horror, I recommend to everybody The Haunting of Hill House and The Last of Us. I just think they're just such well constructed, deep exploration of human psychology. Mm-hmm.
If you've refrained from watching The Last of Us because you don't like zombies, don't worry. There's like barely any zombies in The Last of Us. They're like, they'll be there for like, you'll see 1 or 2 in an episode, and then you'll have an episode where you get like one really big action scene with a bunch of zombies, but for the most part, they're not there.
They're like barely there.
Yeah.
Chris and I
watch partied it with CB because she wanted to watch it, but she was like at college, and zombies are like her kryptonite. She like doesn't do well with zombies because she watched what was that super popular TV series?
Walking Dead.
Thank you. She watched The Walking Dead too young.
That's
The Walking Dead. Like, so I haven't seen it. I've seen scenes. Those zombies are so gross.
But Chris and I, we watched partied it with her so that we could be the moral support, and it really wasn't that bad. Well, like he and I were watching it together, and then we would also watch party it with her, so like we could warn her when a zombie was coming up. So like we previewed it, and there really weren't that many.
No, they're not. Like, unlike the video.
For a completely not scary recommendation, there's a musician/artist named Louis Zong who does this yearly addition to his series. They're basically a little series of music videos, and you've probably actually heard one of the songs before because it's become like a TikTok trending thing. And they're called like it's started off as 2 ghosts who sing a little song for you called Ghost Duet, and from there they join a little choir. There's the most recent one has Frankenstein playing the bass and some cats, and it's very adorable and very fun, and I always make a habit I always make a habit to watch them around this time of year. But yeah.
Oh, Monster House. I pulled up a list of like a Google movies that
I
aren't
remember liking that
scary
one actually.
to look down just to see if I recognized any of them, because like I said, the memory is not helpful right now. Monster House. That was a cute one. I would say it's a little on the slight, like it's a little darker, but like it was great. Zombieland. I'm not big into zombies or zombie movies, but I love Zombieland. That one's good.
I feel like I can't not recommend this comic because the people who make it are very lovely. It's called Dead City, and funny enough, takes place in the city I live. And it's about.
Is that why you get random vampire boys biting people?
I know, right? That's today was just a wild occurrence. This one's actually about zombies, but it's basically about two. I believe they're both boys. There might be some fun gender things. Oh, sorry. Hi, Lisa.
Hope they're.
But yeah. Hope you didn't get bitten by a vampire during your appointment. But yeah, so it's two people who are queer surviving the zombie apocalypse in my city. It finished recently, and they published the volume, and I have it, but it's in my room. Actually, so not all my horror is over there, but yeah, it's really nice. It's very it's kind of like slice of lifey, while also being in the middle of an apocalypse. But yeah,
the
have to
primary type of apocalypse media I appreciate. Slice of life apocalypse media.
Yeah.
I have, in fact, avoided both zombies and vampires lately.
That's fair.
Because you don't like them, because you've had too much of it. Can I ask? It's okay. You don't have to answer if you don't want to. This is not scary. Well, I guess your mileage may vary with this one, and it's the craft
with the scary.
Oh, The Craft. Oh my gosh,
Craft.
Yeah.
I've heard of this.
That was enjoyable.
I should have saw that. That was my bad. That was a great joke. Hey, go ahead, Nene.
Oh, as far as I don't know, something other I played The Last of Us 10 years ago, the original game. And I used to recommend that to everybody if they like a good challenge, because that game is not an easy trip. But a video game series I was obsessed with was Silent Hill. I don't know if you've ever played Silent Hill.
I haven't played it myself, but I do know of the Silent Hill games. My dad was really big into them. And one time I was watching him play them. They thought I was napping, but I had woken up and started watching him, and I heard my mom coming, so I pretended to be asleep again. And she yelled at my dad for playing that while I was in the room, and he was like, "She's sleeping."
I just love the trippiness. I just love interacting with the world. You never know when it's gonna go into hell mode, and then the puzzles are just fascinating. There was a puzzle I remember once that was based on a poem. You read a poem and you had to figure out the riddle. But it's just a beautiful gory scene. It's gore, but pretty gore. That's how I think of Silent Hill.
Aesthetically pleasing gore.
Yes.
I have too many recommendations today, I feel like. But.
Lisa said, to be fair, I'm kind of in and out with zombie vampire media. Love a gothic vibe, but sometimes I am too afraid of small. That reminds me of a comic on Webtoons that I absolutely love. It's called Unholy Blood. It is finished. I think it's in the Daily Pass. I don't know for sure. And it is basically about a vampire Jesus. Like the thumbnail for a while was even like her with a thorn crown around her head. So I was like, I'm a vampire Jesus lady. I really love that one. There's also like this cute love story undertone throughout the entire, but it's basically she's like one of the last pure vampires, and her parents were killed when she was a kid, and she's living in a world where people are aware of vampires, and they're so they're like nobody goes out after dark, and they're like even have ways that they can test if somebody's a vampire or not. And so she's trying to just live as like a regular person, and because she's a pureblood, she looks like a regular person most of the time. But if like her vampirism gets too strong or like takes in, her like hair goes white and her eyes go really blue, I think. She either has blue eyes that go red or she has brown eyes that go blue. I don't remember which. But like somebody has started targeting her because they need the blood of a pureblood for something. And well, because if a vampire drinks the blood of a pureblood, they become super strong. And then her love interest dude is like a vampire killer police guy, but he like is working with her to solve a mystery while she's hiding her vampirism from him. And they, you know, fall for each other. It's great. I love the art style too. Highly recommend.
Please link it to me. I'm very curious.
Also, the vampires have different powers. Like, if I remember it, one of them like controls animals and stuff. Is great. I just typed holy in Google,
which will.
Yeah.
I was about to say maybe be my last recommendation, but honestly, I'm full of recommendations today. I didn't know I liked horror so much. But there's this manga, and it's one of my like dearest to my heart. It's called Pure Trance, and the thing is that it's like a dystopian horror. In the the style is super reminiscent of Sanrio. Like a lot of the characters look like they could perfectly fit in beside Hello Kitty. It has a ton of
horror. Yeah,
it's great. The thing is, check the trigger warnings because there's like a bunch of stuff going on in that one. But it's also fun. At one point, a lady romances a brain spinal cord thing, but they're both drawn so cutely that you can't help but be like, I kind of ship it. Like
all the ways an art style can change how we perceive very specific things.
It's a really interesting like study in that sort of thing of like juxtaposing horror and cuteness.
Okay.
And I will also
in human form, she has brown eyes and brown hair. In vampire form, she has silver eyes and blue hair.
Oh, I just remembered.
Silver hair and blue eyes.
I remember an anime that one of my favorite animes is horror. It's like a psychological horror. I would compare it more to like Final Destination. So it's not like, but it's basically like a classroom. I might have spoken about it before. It's like a classroom that is cursed because it's closer to death, and because of that, there's a calamity that kills the students and their families. Because there was a student years ago that had passed away, and they pretended that student was still alive. And because they pretended that student was still alive, they became cursed, and are now every year there's like a string of them that die. I love that. It's like only 12 episodes. It's called Another, and I just
that's what I thought. I was like, I have been recommended that.
Yes,
it's on Crunchyroll.
The Japanese dub is but not the Japanese sub, but not the English dub. I have to like go on some Russian shady website to watch the English version.
I need to stop eating these because I just remembered I can use them as a straw. I'll make myself some hot cocoa. But I have a problem. Yummy. If a snack is within arm's reach, I will munch on it.
Yeah.
But all right, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up. I'll let my lovely co-hosts do their outros.
Oh, I go first.
So, Mimi,
I'm in the hot seat. Okay, hi friends. Thank you for having me. I'm Mimi. I'm a dark fantasy and horror writer working on my very sad whips. I love sad. I write sad and I read sad. You can follow me anywhere across social media at Mirav Levy Writes. But yeah, thanks for having me. I love talking about horror.
Are you ready, Tina?
Oh, yes. I was waiting for someone to say something for some reason. I'm not used to us ending this early. As you can see, I was still in sprint mode.
Let's talk to be a bit shorter. It's fine.
So, hello, once again, I'm Tina, aka Campy. I make queer art and comics of the smoochy and spooky variety, lesbian vampires, deep sea mermaids, secret admirer mysteries, plus much more. You can find me at the links below at campy.com, where you can read all my stuff for free. That's me.
Yeah. And I am writing Mom Samantha L. Nassett. On my channel, I talk about writer things, parent things, and writer-parent things. I also host live streams every Monday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. I have to get I just remembered a bunch of things I have to do for November. It's fine. You can go to my website, SamanthaLNassett.com, to read my spooky flash fiction and my villainish murder short story. If you want to join our Discord, just go to my Ko-fi down below. Enjoy the $1 membership tier. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for talking about spooky things. And I hope y'all have a good time. Bye.